All right, so let me get to the executive management team, and I'm going to start with Allan Bowditch. Allan is our Chief Communications Officer, and he is going to give us a brief presentation on a major program where we've been moving ahead on for a number of months, and that's the history of the ECCL. So Allan, I'll turn over to you, and you can put your slideshow up and talk us through it.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Just bear with me for a brief second while I just get the slideshow up, which shouldn't be more than a second or two. So
there it is. Good.
Yeah. If I can, there we go. Okay, first of all, before I start, I want to thank Jim Shields, who is one of the board directors of the ECCL, for focusing on this particular initiative. This isn't set out by any means to be the ECCL patting themselves on the back for issues that have contributed to Estero as we see it today, but the key objectives are twofold. First of all, to ensure that we have a record of the developments and actions that have contributed to Estero being what it is today, and of course for the future, but also to acknowledge and remember the efforts made by many individuals who, through their skills and commitment, with no financial reward, have helped to make Estero a very special place to live, work, and play. In starting this effort, Jim Shields and myself have already spoken to a large number of people, in some cases twice, which has amounted to about 10 hours of discussion. We'd like to thank already those that have helped us in this, Nick Betos, Phil Douglas, Dan Dronkers, Don Eslick, Bob Leinish, Jack Leinish, Linda Teco-Roach, Roger Strelo. We'd also like to especially thank Lee County Commissioner Frank Mann and former Lee County Commissioner Ray Judah, and the publisher of the Estero Life magazine, Gary Israel, for giving us their time in helping us with this venture. What we see doing in order to provide documents that address the history of the ECCL is basically to have three parts. One, of course, as you see, if those of you who can see the slides, part one would be to cover the period from 2000, when ECCL was first established, although it was called ECHO at the time for a few years, to 2010. Part two, obviously 2011 to 2020, and part three from 2021 onwards. Within the first part, which has already been started, and we should be able to have a documentation of this first part of the history of the ECCL probably next month or thereabouts, we're going to be featuring on the evolution, if you like, from ECHO, which stood for the Estero Committee of Homeowners. That was what the original name was for the group of people who came together. And then that morphed into the ECCL in about 2003, when there was a need to have a rather more substantial structure to it and a fundraising aspect to the organization. We will cover the threat to Estero during this period, the Coconut Road and I-75 interchange, which, as you realize, does no longer actually exist or never came about, the community plan, which I'm going to say a few words about in a moment, Coconut Point and the development of that, the issues relating to mining out on East Corkscrew Road, and the way in which the ECCL tried to establish or to reduce flight plans that interfered with aircraft flying over Estero. I have here a slide which actually says, for those who can't see it, where is this? And those of you who can see it may be forgiven for thinking that, is this some part of Estero? You know, it has lovely palm trees and very nice styled homes and businesses. And the answer to the question is no, it isn't Estero. And for those who can see it and guess the answer correctly, you get a gold star from me. But actually, this is a picture of Boca Raton. So why am I putting a picture of Boca Raton up here? Well, in fact, back in the early part of that period, the individuals who were part of the ECCO organization recognized that with the developments that were going on in Estero at that time, there was a need to try to at least formulate a plan that would give the buildings, and particularly the commercial buildings, you know, a set of standards that they would work towards. And so they examined where in Florida was the best place that had actually set in place these standards and a community plan that addressed those aspects. And they identified Boca Raton as the place which did have some very strict standards, but which had contributed to a wonderful place to live. And anybody who's actually been to Boca Raton, I'm sure will be able to attest to that. So it was from those discussions with the council and the people involved at Boca Raton that essentially a similar plan was put into place and has been in place now during the rest of this time, which has greatly contributed to the style and the pattern of life that we see here in Estero. Obviously, within this report on this period, we will, of course, be addressing these many other things as well. But it's not just the ECCL, if you like, that maybe might be seen to be patting itself on the back. I have two comments here, one from County Commissioner Frank Mann, who said about the value of the ECCL as follows. He said, if the ECCL had not been there, we might have seen a large part of Lee County looking like wall-to-wall concrete, which I fear and oppose. As you guys, the ECCL had not been there, I just don't know what would have happened. And former County Commissioner Ray Judah said the breadth and depth of the ECCL's influence was not just Estero, it was county-wide. And what he was meaning by that was that the group of people who were involved in this development of the community plan also talked to a number of other communities in and around our area who were also so enamored by what had been done that they wanted to know, you know, how we had gone about it and how they could implement a similar set of standards. And finally, from County Commissioner Frank Mann, as regards to the ECCL for the future, he said that the ECCL's perspective is desperately needed in Lee County. And so although much of the discussions was about what had gone on in the past, we also wanted to know, you know, how from his perspective as a county commissioner, he felt that was there a place and was there a role for the ECCL going forward? And he certainly gave a lot of endorsement to that particular issue. So it was just a very brief overview of where we're at the moment. It's a very fascinating aspect that we want to bring to people's attention for the reasons I've mentioned. And we will have more to say about that going forward. So again, thanks to Jim Shields, and thank you all for listening.
Jim, turn your head on.
Okay, you just missed some valuable words of wisdom. No, what I was saying is, thanks, Alan, I appreciate that. And I read through, I was fortunate, Alan shared a lot of the information, the actual dialogue between Alan and Jim and the folks they interviewed. They all put, I have to say, kudos to both Alan and Jim. This is a lot of time, significant amount of time, not only in setting it up and then actually having the interviews and then transcribing all of that and a variety of different other things that we think we'll use down the road. It was quite an excessive amount of time spent, and I really do appreciate that.